I just bought this 22-year-old Land Rover Defender as a surprise to my wife, but I promised I'd never buy another Land Rover again. 3 years ago, I had a 2018 Land Rover Discovery 5, and it was quite possibly the worst car experience I've ever had. It all started just before the warranty was up on the car with Land Rover, and the engine stopped working. The engine blew up, the engine block cracked, and it needed a brand new engine. Now, when this problem first came about, all I noticed was the revs slightly dropping down when the engine was idling, and also it just wouldn't start sometimes unless I went behind it and kicked it and kind of shoved it into gear, thinking maybe that was helping with the starter motor or something like that. Now, you read online, these things do happen, particularly with the 2-litre diesel engine that was in that Discovery, which is now an engine that everyone says has trouble over time. So much so, when I came to sell it, I actually struggled to sell it because no dealer wanted to take it off me for any price. Originally, when this problem first came about, Land Rover didn't seem to know what was wrong. In fact, they took fuel out of the tank and said that I'd probably put contaminated fuel in it, and showed me a sample of normal diesel, and the diesel was in my tank. I spoke to some mechanic friends, and the mechanic said, this doesn't make any sense. And actually, we ended up finding out that the engine block had actually cracked somewhere inside. I got a new engine in the car and all was well again, and my face was restored. I went back into Discovery, enjoyed it for another year or so. Then something happened, something in the wiring, and needed a new wiring harness. My car went into service at Land Rover and I didn't get it back for 9 months. It took ages. After calling Land Rover every month, trying to speak to them to get it sorted, it never got sorted. And I promised when that car went, as soon as I got the wiring harness fixed, I sold it straight away. I actually ended up with a Ford Ranger Raptor that I absolutely love now. I said, my time is done with Land Rover. But as you've probably seen from the title of this video, this is now my 6th Land Rover, and actually my 3rd Land Rover Defender that I'm rebuilding from scratch right here in my garage for my wife. We originally had a plan for my Defender. When I got this Defender, I thought this is going to be a great Defender 90 as a new project. My wife loved my Keswick Green 90, and to be honest, I missed having a 92. At the moment, I've got a Defender 110 pickup in the garage, so this 90 was going to be a complete rebuild. And we're slowly getting there with a strip down, but kind of changed our mind on what that might be. This build originally was for Nick. This is her Defender 90. And originally we had some ideas about what that was going to look like, right? What was your original?
Green, bronze wheels.
Like an urban spec,
Yeah, quite urban
like
looking,
mean looking. But now, recently, I've seen some other things online. We might be changing what that looks like.
I keep seeing loads of things popping up on Instagram, and I think I'm going to completely change the colour. It's like a mushroom latte. How do you describe it?
Brown. And one of the good things with doing that is actually, with that, from my perspective, it means you can see the galvanised chassis has been stood on a lot with a lot of mud and oil, but you can actually leave that bare, which would be quite nice to not have to repaint it, because I don't really want to have to repaint this whole chassis. How do you think things are going so far? Is it your dream Defender?
Not yet, but I think since you've got Will involved, probably I've got more hope that it's going to actually go back together.
Go on a bit more if you can.
He sort of knows what he's doing, some of the time. Got a lot to do today though, so let's crack on. We started by taking off all the fuel lines off the old chassis, unclipping all the brake lines as well, and starting to strip it from the back to the front. Here we're taking off the fuel tank, which actually lifted out really easily. Next, started working on the gearbox and the engine and taking out the bolts that hold it into the chassis. Pulled through the cable now, and Will's got a really nice cutting tool for doing that. But the reason is because obviously when you put this in, and you can see on the chassis I've got there, the shielder one, we've got the rope at the back and front, which makes it so much easier, because I've heard this is a bit of a nightmare of a job to do. And obviously for someone else possibly, if I do end up selling this chassis, drop me a message if you're interested.
We'll start from the back of the chassis, stripping it all off, going forward, and then hopefully remove the engine, gearbox, front axle, and then the old chassis can go.
Rope's running long enough, so we're just shortening them off, and I pull this out another one. So now it's 650 kilograms at max. It's going to be when I change this, which I think is right. I don't really know how much. We're just saying how much does a TD5 engine and gearbox weigh. Yes, we're craning the engine out now.
Oh my god.
This car's obviously in a bit of a mess. Let's talk to Will about when you're buying a car, and when Will bought his last car, what do you do when you buy a car?
Go car vertical.
Check out Car Vertical, because Car Vertical is a vehicle checking website that checks everything you need to know about your next used car.
Last time I used Car Vertical, I used your code. You saved me some money.
If you guys use Doctor, you get 20% off your next vehicle check on Car Vertical.
Pulling it. You have got another garage to put all these bits in, haven't you? It's good to learn my safety boots on there. I need to get these on the shelf.
Well, what have we done? We've taken the engine out, we've taken the gearbox out, we've taken the fuel tank out, we've taken all the lines off it.
Brake lines.
All the brake lines are off now. And we've only got the front axle, and then this chassis is done. The first job was to get the front axle off the chassis, and that means we had to jack it up to be able to let the springs release so the front could be rolled out. I started jacking it up with the jack with some kind of block set up on it, and Will was at the front waiting for those springs to pop out so we could start pushing that front axle out and roll it straight out from the chassis. Once it was high enough, the axle came out really easily, and we left the jack under there with those axle stands at the back. Next job was to lift the chassis up, put it on a wheelbarrow to do this. It was pretty heavy, to be honest. I think these chassis are like 160, 170 kilograms, but it didn't all go to plan as we were wheeling it outside. It's pretty heavy when it does get off balance.
So, what are we doing next on this build?
So the morning has now come, Will has gone home, and he's left me with this state of the garage. So we've got the engine and gearbox out now. We've put that on some axle stands and rested it there. That is all good and ready to be installed back onto my new Shielder chassis I have right here. The axles as well. Since you last saw this, what I've done is I've taken the springs and shocks off it, taken all the arms off it as well, and they are down here. So if you take a look over here, these are all the bits that now I need to send off to get shot blasted and powder coated. So I'm going to keep all these because they're fine. They just need sorting out, including the steering arms and everything else. Just need to get some new track rod ends. On the engine itself, I would like to clean this down a little bit. In some ways, I wonder why bother. I mean, the oil and stuff on it's probably protecting it in some way. It does look a bit shinier if it's cleaned up. But in reality, really, it's going to be covered up anyway. Some things I might change on it is the starter motor, possibly, which is just here. Had a nightmare changing that before in a Defender, and the access of it now is very easy. But really, that's ready to go and ready to be reinstalled into my new Shielder chassis, which is right here. Next thing really is to get a few bits sorted out. So we've got to do that. I've got to get these parts done. I've got to get these axles cleaned up. So if you take a look at this axle, for example, this needs all wire brushing down and then coating, painting. Now, I've previously used Buzzwells for all the paints and stuff that I use, and I've got a tin of their all-in-one chassis paint. So I'm going to be painting this myself by hand, getting the other bit shot blasted and powder coated. And I think that'll give quite a good finish to the whole thing. And we're kind of at ground zero now. This is where it's at the most dismantled point I think we're going to get to. Now it's about building it back up and remembering how it all goes back together. Obviously, you've got to get the bits sprayed, the bulkhead sprayed, all the body parts have got to be sprayed as well. And then we can start slowly piecing this back together and hopefully getting it all in one line so I can bring my Defender 110 back into the garage. That is the plan, because at the moment, stuff is everywhere. And just as Will said, he has indeed destroyed my garage. Make sure you click subscribe, join me along for this journey as we rebuild this Defender, and I'll see you guys very soon.